The millionaire kneels, surprising the black woman Beggar who fell asleep at the office. It was the kind of night nobody expected. The city lights of New York blurred through the huge floor-to-ceiling windows in the giant office on the 56th floor. All that glass and steel, cold white lights buzzing silently. And then, in the middle of all that wealth and power, there she was, Maria Johnson, exhausted, slumped in the corner by the oversized mahogany desk, her dark skin almost shining under the sterile glow as she slept. Her threadbare jacket pulled tight around her trembling frame. A woman who cleaned this very office every night for years. A place she sometimes joked felt more like a cage than a workplace. And tonight, after 12 hours of scrubbing floors, polishing windows, and dodging the relentless tide of deadlines ticking in her mind, she crashed right here, in the billionaire CEO's lair. People might have thought she was a beggar. Maybe she seemed like one after all. This tiny figure lost in vast luxury, her worn shoes scuffed, her fingers trembling from the cold. But no, she was nobody's charity. Just a tired mother holding on, with a little girl named Isabella waiting at home, somewhere far from this glittering tower. And then, out of nowhere, Robert Thompson appeared. The one man who could control millions with a signature, but who, in that second, looked completely powerless. His designer shoes stopped just inches away from Maria's curled body. His expensive suit couldn't hide the exhaustion in his eyes. And then, to everyone's shock, he knelt down, right there, a billionaire kneeling before a stranger. Like some strange twist of fate no one could explain. His expression softened, like a man suddenly waking up from some deep, lonely nightmare. That moment hung in the air, thick and strange. The sharp edge of curiosity cut through the silence. Employees from other floors, lurking nearby, caught glimpses and whispered, "Is that the CEO? On his knees? For her?" Maria's chest tightened. Was this pity, sympathy, or something else? Something dangerous. Her fingers clenched into fists, heart pounding like a drum in her ears. She wanted to bolt, but her body was rooted, caught in the rawness of that gaze, intense yet strangely kind. Robert's voice broke the quiet, soft but urgent. "Are you okay?" The question was simple, but the weight behind it crushed the space between them. In that moment, the billionaire and the cleaner became just two tired souls, battling loneliness and silent fears. A world of rumors and impossible dreams suddenly collided, and no one knew what could survive the crash. What could a man with everything and a woman with barely anything find in each other, really? As Maria opened her eyes, afraid and curious, the city kept buzzing far below, indifferent and loud. What happened next? How did two worlds, this different, even begin to touch? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. A lot of subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just take a quick look at that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any of the exclusive content coming your way. And while you're here, hit that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, what city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. As Maria opened her eyes, The world around her blurred for a moment. She blinked, trying to shake off the remnants of sleep and fear. And there was Robert, kneeling before her, his eyes searching hers. For a heartbeat, the air was thick with something. Uncertainty? Hope? But just then, a crash reverberated through the floor, shaking the foundations of everything. Glass shattered, the sound piercing and jarring, cutting through the fragile moment they had created. The lights flickered, a few overhead bulbs bursting into clouds of yellow sparks. Gasps echoed from the nearby employees. Confusion erupted. "Get down!" someone shouted, shoving past the office door. Before Maria could register the chaos, Robert sprang to his feet, moving with unexpected speed. His hand grabbed her arm, hoisting her up like she weighed nothing. "We need to go." His voice was urgent, but she felt a jolt of fear. Why was he pulling her? Shouldn't they just stay right here, in this stolen moment of connection? He yanked open the office door, and outside, a scene from a nightmare unraveled. Panic ruled the halls, people rushing past, the echoes of terrified screams mingling with the blaring alarm. "A shooter!" someone yelled, and Maria's stomach dropped. All she could think of was Isabella, home alone, waiting for her mother, who might not make it back. "No, no, stay here," she pleaded, desperate. Her feet felt frozen. But Robert was already ushering her down the corridor, adrenaline coursing through him. "We have to get to safety." His tone left no room for argument. They stumbled onto the main floor, the chaos amplifying. Employees were huddled in corners, some crying, others trying to escape the building. Robert's grip tightened on Maria's arm, his breath heavy with determination. They reached a staircase and began to descend. Then, without warning, a heavy thud echoed above, followed by a gunshot that rang out, penetrating through to the lower levels. Panic surged again. Voices raised in disbelief and horror. Maria's heart raced, each beat resonating with dread. They were trapped, caught between worlds of wealth and despair. Suddenly, a figure broke through the crowd. A man in a black hoodie, his face obscured. His eyes darted frantically, revealing panic, but also purpose. It was Ralph, the office security guard, a position he'd held for years. Maria's mind whirled. Why was he here? It all seemed so surreal. "Everyone, follow me," he yelled, darting past, his eyes briefly locking onto Maria's. For a moment, it was like he saw more than just the cleaner. He saw a mother, a fighter. But then all of his focus snapped back to the chaos. Before she could think further, the man in the hoodie turned sharply and pointed a gun, aiming it wildly at Ralph. An electric silence filled the room. Just for a second, it felt like time paused. Maria's breath caught, heart hammering in her chest. "Stop!" Robert shouted, taking a step forward, his body instinctively blocking Maria. But before she could process what was happening, another shot fired. It felt like the world dropped away. Maria screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the cacophony. She couldn't even see where the bullet had gone. And then Robert collapsed. Nothing made sense. Whispers turned into yells, and the ground felt unstable beneath her feet. "Robert!" she gasped, rushing forward, but her feet wouldn't let her move. Panic consumed her, a wave of fear as she looked down at him. Too still, too pale. The room erupted around them. But all she could focus on was that moment. The gunman's presence loomed over them, and now everything felt distorted. Who was he? Why the shooting? What did it all mean for them? Maria's mind raced. Secrets lay buried in this chaos, and with a single gunshot, everything changed. The billionaire and the cleaner, their worlds tangled in violence. No longer just a rescue, but a fight for survival. And above it all, she felt the thread fray. What would happen next? What truth would come out of this nightmare? Maria looked down in horror at Robert, his body limp and still. The world around her faded, the blaring alarm and screaming voices becoming muffled echoes. Blood pooled quickly, soaking into the pristine carpet, a stark contrast to the designer suits and polished surfaces. She felt breathless, like the air had been knocked out of her. No, this can't be happening. "Robert!" she screamed again, but her voice trembled, swallowed by the chaos. Her heart screamed for action, but dread held her in place, frozen in disbelief. "Call 911!" someone shouted. But the thought of help feeling increasingly far away, the sirens lost in the noise of panic. Maria knelt beside him, wild thoughts racing in her mind. What had just happened? A shot rang out again, loud and echoing. Screams erupted anew as people dove for cover. A wave of terror surged through Maria. She couldn't think. She wouldn't let this be the end for them. Not here, not now. Closing her eyes for just a moment, she took a deep breath, trying to ground herself. But then another crash came, and to her shock, the office door blew open with a thunderous bang. A tall figure rushed in, backlit by the chaos outside. It was Alex, the firm's shadowy vice president, someone who rarely left his high-rise haven. He charged in, eyes wild, a look of sheer panic twisted on his face. "Get everyone out!" he shouted, his voice slicing through the madness. Then his eyes found Maria, full of urgency. "You, grab him! Alex, he's shot!" she cried out in disbelief. "He needs help!" But Alex was already on the move, pushing through the crowd. "We don't have time!" He yanked at her arm, and she could feel the strength in his grip. "We need to go, now!" Something in his voice broke through her fear. Maria glanced at Robert, at the growing pool of blood, and then back to Alex. "No!" she shouted. "I'm not leaving him!" But just as she dug her heels in, the gunman appeared again, moving swiftly from the corner of the office, aiming the weapon at Alex now. Time slowed. Maria felt the world compress, moments stretching, her heart pounding in double time. "Get down!" Alex shouted, pushing Maria away. She barely had time to register what happened before the gun fired again, and screams crescendoed around her. But it was not Alex who fell. It was Robert. "Robert!" It escaped her lips like a prayer, a plea. She rushed forward, instinct taking over, wanting to shield him, to pull him back from the edge of death. But then something even more shocking happened. As Robert lay there, his eyes blinked open in confusion. And in that second, Maria saw something that rocketed her world upside down. Robert wasn't just the billionaire CEO, he was Alex's brother, married to their mother. Maria's heart dropped. All those years of cleaning, all the jokes, all the laughs, they were all a complicated mask over family ties she had never seen. Why hadn't anyone mentioned this? "Robert?" Her voice trembled, uncertain now. You knew? The realization crashed around her, shaking the ground beneath her feet. But before Robert could answer, the gunman fired again. Maria's gut twisted in horror. Would she lose them both? And in that moment, the truth of their world, lives stitched together by invisible threads of pain and fear, came crashing down. Because now everything felt precarious, woven into an ugly tapestry that threatened to unravel at any moment. What was this chaos? What darkness lay in their shared history? And could they survive the fallout, facing not just the gunman, but all the secrets hiding in plain sight? The questions smoldered in the air, heavy and unanswered, as the sirens finally wailed in the distance, echoing uncertainty with every shrill note. Maria knelt beside Robert, shock splintering through her like glass. The weight of his body pressed into the carpet, and she could feel the warmth of his blood seeping through her fingers. "Please, just wake up," she begged, her voice breaking, filled with desperation. But Robert's eyes fluttered only for a moment, confusion swirling in his gaze before sliding shut again. The chaos surrounding them continued to spiral out of control. Screams filled the air, people darting past, and sirens grew louder in the distance. Each noise felt like a cruel reminder of how fragile everything was. "Get back! Everyone, get back!" Alex yelled, pushing through the crowd, his own fear turning to anger. He grabbed Maria by the shoulder, urgency etched into his face. "We have to move, now!" "No, I can't leave him," she shouted, her heart pounding like a drum. But deep down, beneath the raw panic, something else stirred, a flicker of resolution. She was not going to abandon Robert like this. Before she could pull away, the gunman reappeared, wild and frantic. His gaze darted around the room, landing on Maria and Robert. In that moment, everything shifted again. A chilling smile broke across the gunman's face, revealing something almost eerily gleeful. "I told you it would end like this, didn't I?" His voice dripped with a twisted satisfaction. "Just like your mother. No wonder you were so easy to track." Maria felt ice course through her veins. "What do you mean?" she stammered, heart racing, words tangling in her throat. The gunman's eyes widened with delight. "Didn't you know? She didn't just owe money. It was so much worse. You're not just a cleaner in this building, are you?" He laughed, a sharp, jarring sound that shattered the air. "You're a debt, a final payment." The world around Maria slicked away. She felt dizzy, a dark pit opening inside her. "What are you talking about?" she whispered, tears pooling in her eyes. But the gunman leaned in closer, his intentions sharp and dangerous. "Your mother made some horrible choices, didn't she? And look where they led you." His gaze locked onto Robert. "Believing you could rise above it all by working for him? How naive. Did you think wealth could cleanse the sins of your family's past?" She jolted back, the realization hitting her like a freight train. Robert had been unaware of her history, of her mother's mistakes. And now, those mistakes had come crashing down on them both. Before she could respond, the ground shook violently, and the entire building seemed to tremble. A deafening crash echoed from above, sending debris raining down. Panic erupted, people scrambling desperately for safety. "Move! Everyone, move!" Ralph, the security guard, shouted, shoving past them. But another gunshot rang out, and the world dulled. They all froze. Suddenly, the lights flickered, then went out completely. Darkness consumed them. Screams erupted in the pitch black, voices filled with terror, and on the floor, Maria felt Robert's hand slip from hers. "Robert!" she screamed into the void, dread clawing at her throat. The silence was suffocating. No sirens, no screams, just the pounding of her own heart. Was he gone? Would they all be lost in this nightmare? She pulled herself together, her determination solidifying. She wasn't finished yet. Not for herself, not for Robert. Just as she steeled herself to move, a soft voice cut through the chaos. "I'm not done yet, Maria." The familiar cadence of Robert's words came from the dark, both a whisper of hope and a haunting reminder. But something felt off. Maria's breath caught. "What do you mean?" A glimmer of light pierced the darkness, illuminating Robert's pale face. But something else caught her eye. A figure lurking just beyond the light, a shadow with a familiar shape. Her heart raced as the truth twisted in her mind. Then another shot rang out, and the figure staggered into view. It was her mother. As Maria stared at her mother, her heart threatened to shatter. The chaos around them faded, like a film losing focus. "Mom," she whispered, disbelief choking her voice. "Is this really happening?" Her mother's eyes, heavy-lidded and bruised, reflected 1,000 unspoken words. Maria felt every raw emotion in that gaze: regret, fear, love, and something darker she couldn't quite name. What devastation had led her here, into the arms of a nightmare? Then, in a twisted haze, the gunman laughed, a cruel sound that sliced through the air. "Didn't see that coming, did you?" With one charge of arrogance, he pointed the gun toward both, Maria and her mother, threatening to pull the trigger to erase any chance for the past to heal. "You're both nothing but pawns in a game you're too blind to understand. Why are you doing this?" Maria's voice broke, desperation soaking every word. "Why her? Your mother borrowed money from some very important people. Dangerous people," he sneered. "And when you borrow, you pay your debts. It's not my fault you didn't know." Time twisted again. Impossibly. The room seemed to contract and expand, each gasp hanging between them like a fragile thread. Suddenly, Maria's anger ignited. "You think she wants this? That she chose this life? You're insane." "Touching," he mocked, his eyes glimmering with malice. But the true horror is yet to unfold. What did he mean? Then, an ear-splitting crash came from the back of the office, a wall collapsing under the pressure of chaos. Everyone jumped. Maria's pulse raced. Would she lose them both in a heartbeat? But amidst the dust, a new figure emerged from the debris. A woman, auburn hair flowing, her clothes tattered but fierce, stepping boldly into the firestorm. "Enough!" she shouted. Her voice rang with authority, silencing every frantic thought. Instantly, the gunman hesitated, brows knitting together in confusion. "You think you control them? Think again." Buzzed with whispers about her, secrets, lies, and stories that proved to be true or utterly false. "Jenna?" Maria gasped, the name spilling from her lips. How was she here, and why now? As Jenna stepped forward, her gaze locked onto Maria, radiating a fierce intensity. "Your mother lived in a world crafted by fear and lies. But you," she said, voice lowering, You deserve the truth." The gunman shook his head, stammering, "You're dead. I saw you fall." "I'm very much alive," she replied, her eyes narrowing. "Now back away." With unnerving composure, she advanced, causing the gunman to falter. "Your threats mean nothing to me." Maria felt the space heat as tensions multiplied. What was happening? Who was this woman? The link between them, twisted tight, pain blooming that she didn't even understand. As the gunman shifted nervously, a flicker of recognition passed across Jenna's face. "You think you can terrorize them for your own gain?" she spat. "You'll regret that." And then, faster than she could comprehend, Jenna lunged, tackling the gunman. They hit the ground, a flurry of limbs and desperation. It was a blur of action, fierce and chaotic, voices screaming, blood pounding in her ears. Robert, a groan escaping his lips, brought her back. "Maria, don't." But even he could barely speak, his power dwindling. "Mom, stay back," she pleaded. But everything was moving too fast. Jenna wrestled for control while the gunman fought back, rage igniting. But the truth hung thick in the air. Jenna wasn't just a stranger. She was a part of their tangled web. Something in that stare, the fire blazing inside her. It felt personal. "Maria, we need to go!" Robert's voice broke her focus, the urgency in him collapsing time. And just as Jenna gained the upper hand, a deafening bang ricocheted off the walls. Everything exploded around them. Screams melded into chaos. The foundation thudded. Maria felt the world warp and shift. And as the dust settled, a scream pierced through it. Something unholy, echoing with raw heartache. A shape fell toward the ground, slumping heavily. "Mom!" Maria cried again. But when she turned, the sight locked her heart in a vice. Her mother lay motionless, hands still trailing the floor, blood pooling around her. Stunned silence enveloped them, thick and suffocating. Everything inside her began to crack apart. Then Robert's eyes hardened. He turned to Jenna, whose face paled, a storm of emotions brewing beneath her facade. "You knew." I didn't know it would end like this," she shouted, her fear morphing into something unrecognizable. Everyone had secrets, dark and tangled. Everything began to spin out of control, a web in which betrayal was the only thread that held them together. Maria trembled. Those years climbing from the ashes of her mother's mistakes, was this what they led to? Disillusioned with truth and fiction, what lay ahead would shift the very ground beneath them. Yet, here they stood, trapped in a storm, with a piece of their world broken. The sirens rang closer, and she fell to her knees. "This can't be the end," Maria whispered, voice trembling. But deep inside, a seed of doubt took root. What awaited them in the aftermath? What chaos would the truth unleash? Maria knelt in the dark, the weight of her mother's body pulling her down. She could barely breathe. The sirens were closer now, but they felt 1,000,000 miles away. "Mom, please," her voice trembled, a child lost in a nightmare. She reached out, fingers brushing the stillness of her mother's cheek. But all she felt was cold. So cold. The chaos erupted around them. But for her, nothing mattered but that silence. The gunman was still reeling, his face twisted in frustration and fear. Jenna, fierce and undaunted, struggled against him. "I'm not done with you!" The words hung heavy, But Maria couldn't process them. Her focus narrowed to a singular point. Her mother, the tangled history, the lies that bound them. Then a guttural primal scream broke the air, her mother's name spilling from Jenna's lips. "You think this ends here?" she yelled, pushing against the floor with desperation. "This isn't just about money. You don't know what you've started." The air shifted, thickening with tension. What did Jenna know? Before Maria could ask, the ground shook again. That same heavy crash reverberated through the walls, trembling beneath the weight of their unraveling lives. Panic surged. Then, without warning, the lights flickered back on. For a moment, hope cracked the darkness, a brief illumination of twisted faces and fear. And in that flash, something else caught her eye. Something moving in the shadows beyond the chaos. Her heart sank. It was another figure, a woman dressed in black, emerging from the office doorway, serene and terrifying amid the anarchy. She moved with speed and purpose, gliding through the room like she was born from the storm. "Get out of the way!" The order was sharp, echoing with authority. It pierced the confusion, drawing every eye toward her. "Who the hell are you?" the gunman shouted, fury boiling from him, as he leveled the gun toward her, hands trembling with rage. The woman's lips curled into a dark smile, full of secrets. "The one you're afraid of." And with a quick flick of her wrist, she produced a glimmering object, a small device, holding it up like a trophy before pressing down hard on its surface. A deafening noise erupted, drowning out all else. A bright flash burst from her hand, consuming the room in blinding light, forcing everyone to shield their eyes. But not before the weapon in the hand of the gunman fired violently, echoing a crack that sliced through the fear. When the light faded, silence filled the void. Maria blinked, heart racing. She couldn't see. The world was a haze of colors blending into one another. And then, suddenly, everything shifted again. The air felt electric. Everything was wrong. She could feel the change, like the ground beneath her was giving way. Panic surged, mixed with something strange, something almost exhilarating, as she caught a glimpse of the gunman, his face pale, eyes wide with shock. And there, on the floor beside him, something flickered. An envelope burst open, papers scattered, unveiling a digital screen flashing ominously. Maria's breath caught. Numbers, names, a list, a ledger of debts and deals. Each name felt like a dagger in her heart. "Mom?" she whispered, turning desperate eyes to her mother's body, to Jenna, to the woman she didn't recognize. "What is this?" The gunman was backpedaling, rage lifting him higher. "You think this means anything?" He was unsteady in horror, but she caught his eyes flickering between the papers and the woman standing before him. "No!" he shouted, suddenly terrified. "You wouldn't!" But she would. And then that woman, that stranger, took a confident step forward. "You have no idea how deep this goes. But it's time I showed you." Maria's heart raced, confusion swirling as she tried to piece it together. This wasn't just a hostage situation. This was something larger. Something with roots that twisted far beyond her understanding. The sirens grew louder outside, but they felt distant, as if they belonged to another world. "What truth?" she rasped, feeling the edge of panic clawing up her throat. And then the woman smiled, and in that smile she felt everything twist. Your mother was never just a cleaner. She didn't just owe money. She was the architect behind it all. That's when Maria felt time stop, the world fading away. The pieces of a truth she never wanted to know slipped into place, and the screeching uncertainty of what lay ahead wrapped around her, darker than anything she could have imagined. Maria knelt in the lifeless hush, the weight of her mother's body pulling her down. She could barely breathe. The sirens were closer now, but they felt a million miles away. "Mom, please." Her voice trembled, a child lost in a nightmare. She reached out, fingers brushing the stillness of her mother's cheek. Cold, so cold. The chaos erupted around them, but for her, nothing mattered but that silence. The gunman was still reeling, his face twisted in frustration and fear. Jenna, fierce and undaunted, struggled against him. "I'm not done with you." How could she say those words while the darkness of death loomed so close? Maria's heart sped up. She willed herself to break free from that grasp of despair. If only she could reach into that moment, pull her mother back from the edge. Maybe if she spoke louder, broke through the noise. Suddenly, the gunman's wild eyes caught the light. "You think she was just a cleaner?" He spat bitterly, breathing in the chaos. "You don't know who she was. She was the puppeteer, controlling everything from the shadows." Time twisted as Jenna's expression shifted, uncertainty seeping in behind her fierce demeanor. "What do you mean?" she demanded, a crack in her confidence. The gunman laughed, a high, manic sound that raised goosebumps on Maria's skin. "You think you're protecting her? She used people. She weaved a web that trapped them, all for money. After all those years of silence, she was living large on other people's pain." Maria's heart plunged, filled with dread. Had this been true? Had her mother been tangled in darkness all this time? "Stop lying!" she cried, but doubts began to swirl, pulling her under. She had a grip on everyone. "Maria," he sneered, eyes dancing with malice. "And when they came for her debts, she didn't flinch. She just lifted her head, pretending it was all a game. But she played with fire, and now look where we are." Jenna stepped closer, her jaw tight, but eyes wide with worry. "Don't listen to him. He's just trying to manipulate you." But the words echoed like ghosts in Maria's mind. She felt the truth coil around her heart like a snake, squeezing. What life had her mother truly lived? As she pieced it together, darkness clouded her thoughts. "Your mother never cared about you," the gunman shouted, unleashing a torrent of rage. "She sold you out. It was her plan all along." In that moment, the ground shook beneath them again. The world felt unsteady. The air hummed with uncertainty. Maria blinked away tears, trying to drown out the rising chaos. But there was something primal in the accusation. She could hardly breathe. Then, with a sudden crash, the office wall exploded, sending debris flying as if the building itself was tearing apart. Smoke filled the air, blinding them. Coughs erupted, confusion overwhelming senses as everyone scrambled for cover, fear melding into panic. In the midst of the chaos, Maria felt a hand, strong, familiar, gripping hers. She turned, eyes wide, recognizing Robert's pale face through the swirling haze. "We have to go," he urged, pulling her up. But she hesitated, torn between following Him and confronting the bitter truth. "Wait," Maria yelled, voice strained. "What if he's right? What is he—" But Robert's grip tightened around her wrist, urgency flooding his voice. "Not now, Maria. We can't stay." Then, in a flash, a sharp click silenced everything. The gunman's expression shifting to pure horror, a realization creeping in. The woman in black, the one who had captivated their attention moments before, had a weapon aimed right at him. "Enough!" she yelled, voice commanding, cutting through the tumult. "You're done." The gunman's bravado cracked with fierce panic. "You can't! I know everything!" All attention turned to the woman, everything held in that tense moment. Maria felt a shiver of recognition. "Who are you?" In that split second, she turned to them, eyes glistening with depth. "I'm someone who knows the truth." Then she lifted her weapon. Everything felt poised on the edge of a knife. And it's time to end this game. As tension hung in the air, Maria's world shattered. The gunman, his face pale, features crumbling, looked at her. "You don't know what's coming," he murmured, the fear evident. Before anyone could respond, a deafening bang echoed through the office, leaving Maria breathless and frozen. The woman in black stepped back, eyes wide with shock. The gunman fell, and then, suddenly, everything clicked into place as the woman spoke again, her voice calm yet chilling against the rising screams. "The truth is deeper than you ever imagined, Maria. Your mother didn't just orchestrate this. She was one of the key players. Every heartbeat trembled like a dissonant note. I am here to finish what she started." With those words, Maria felt her entire life pivot, truths unraveling into chaos. What did it mean? Everything she thought she knew was unraveling fast. And when she looked back at Robert, he was staring. Shock splashed across his face. What would happen next? Would they survive this truth? Would they survive each other? Maria knelt beside her mother, heart racing, as the chaos swirled around them like a storm. It felt unreal, a nightmare stretching beyond belief. The woman in black held her ground, weapon ready, while the gunman lay crumpled on the floor, life leaking out too rapidly. Each breath felt like a weight, a plea for the horrific scene to dissolve into the background. "What do you mean?" Maria managed to choke out, searching Jenna's face for answers, for clarity in this madness. What secrets were hidden? What truths had been cloaked in darkness? She felt Robert's grip tighten around her wrist. His own fear echoed in his eyes. "Your mother wasn't just a victim," the woman in black continued, stepping closer, her intensity radiating. "She was a player in a game far more dangerous than you know." The air felt electric, charged with a truth that hung heavy. Just then, a low rumble echoed from above, shaking the walls like an earthquake. Panic surged. The crowd around them froze, uncertainty painted across every face. "Get back!" Robert shouted, pulling Maria closer. But before they could react, the ceiling cracked. A plume of dust exploded into the air, blinding them momentarily. Distracted by the chaos, the gunman's panic intensified, his eyes darting as he pushed himself up. "You don't understand!" he screamed, blood coating his shirt, an animal backed into a corner. "She betrayed me!" And then, out of the dust, a massive piece of concrete broke free, falling straight down, shattering like glass when it struck the ground. In that instant, the tension peaked. Something primal clicked in everyone's minds. They had to get out. But as the dust cleared, A horrifying sight emerged. A body lay crumpled on the floor beside the gunman. It was Jenna, her chest a dark crimson stain. Shockwaves rippled through the crowd. Maria felt the world tilt. "No! Jenna!" she cried, her voice raw with disbelief. The gunman grimaced, a flicker of malice flashing in his eyes. "Guess the debt collector came for her too," he spat, cackling wildly. The laughter rang hollow, but it amplified the fear suffocating the room. Maria's heart hammered, disbelief swallowing her whole. "No, this isn't real." She stared at the body on the floor, confusion crashing over her like waves, each one dragging her further into despair. But just then, Robert's fierce voice broke through. "We have to go," he insisted, urgency steeping into each word. His grip on her tightened. "We can't stay here." And as they turned to flee, the woman in black, Jenna's lifeless body laying behind them, began to shimmer. Maria's eyes widened. You couldn't see it at first, but then everything changed. Her form flickered, emanating an otherworldly glow that drew everyone's eyes. "No!" the gunman shouted, scrambling to his feet, desperation coursing through him. His facade shattered, the cowardice of his past clawing to the surface. "You can't! You were supposed to be—" Then, as if echoing his words, Jenna's body erupted in light, flooding the room with radiance. The walls vibrated, every mind dizzying from what they were witnessing. As quickly as it began, the light swallowed the gunman whole, his terrified screams mingling with the illuminating blast. And amidst the brilliance, Maria felt something in her slip, something integral, like her entire understanding of reality was fracturing. Then, silence. Slowly, the light faded. The air grew thick with tension, stifling the collective breath, held in disbelief. Where the gunmen had stood, there was nothing left. No blood, no brokenness, only a faint shimmer lingering in the air. "What just happened?" Robert murmured, eyes wide, breathless. "I don't know," Maria shook her head, heart pounding against her chest. "I don't understand any of this." But the uncertainty hung thick, wrapping around them as they faced the aftermath. Jenna was truly gone, and now this newfound mystery loomed large. Who was behind the woman in black? What was the connection between them all? And deep inside, amidst the swirling devastation, a dark truth lingered just out of reach. Would they ever learn what lay hidden in the shadows? Maria clenched her fists, desperation clawing at her as the sirens wailed closer. This hadn't ended. It was just the beginning. She felt that pulse of urgency, every moment a heartbeat in her chest. What would come next? Maria knelt beside her mother's body, the air thick with confusion and dread. She couldn't shake off the disbelief. The chaos around them buzzed like 100 angry bees, but all she felt was an aching emptiness in her chest. Robert, still gripping her hand, looked battered and lost, his eyes darting between her and the woman in black who had just taken down the gunman. "What just happened?" Robert murmured, the shock of it all pulling him down like a weight. "I don't know," she whispered, her throat tight. As the sirens wailed closer, she felt a pulse of urgency in the pit of her stomach. This wasn't over. Then, as if summoned by their despair, the air shifted again. The woman in black, with that strange, otherworldly glow, raised her hand, fingers glinting with something metallic. Maria squinted, struggling to make out what it was in the fading light. Suddenly, the woman dropped the object to the ground. It clattered against the floor and burst open, spilling out a cascade of tiny, translucent capsules. Gasps echoed through the remaining crowd, fear rippling among the employees. What was happening? Within seconds, the room filled with a low hum, vibrating through their bodies. The capsules glowed ominously, radiating an eerie light that seemed to pull everyone in, making them forget the violence that had just taken place. "Get back!" Robert shouted, instinctively pulling Maria closer. The people around them pressed against the walls, eyes wide, hands trembling. "What is this?" But the woman in black simply smiled, a smirk twisting the corners of her lips as she surveyed the panic unfolding. "Let's see how much of the past you really want to uncover," she said, her voice smooth yet taunting. With a sharp motion, she swept her arm across the room. The capsules burst into brilliant flashes, projecting vivid images onto the walls. Eyes widened even further as scenes of lives played out like a film. A young girl, her mother, vibrant and alive, laughing in a city park. A cut to a frantic phone call filled with tears. Another to a confrontation in a dimly lit place. Harsh words exchanged, betrayal spilling into the air. Your mother wasn't who you thought she was. Maria felt the ground shift beneath her, her heart pounding loudly in her ears. "No, this can't be real," she whispered, shaking her head furiously. But the images continued, unraveling her perception. Faces of people she recognized flashed across the screen. Friends, colleagues, all entangled in a web of deceit she had never seen. Betrayals cut deeper and deeper, revealing connections that shattered her world. "Look closely," the woman in black urged, stepping closer. "You're all connected, Maria. Your mother was deep in it. She was a master manipulator, a puppeteer without a soul. But now, it's your turn. Every ounce of fear morphed into something dangerous. The truth hung heavy, forming an anchor that threatened to drag her down into darkness. How could her mother have orchestrated all this? But before she could catch her breath, the floor shook violently again. This time, it wasn't just shockwaves. A shadow loomed in the doorway, cutting into the chaos. Someone emerged, tall and imposing. A figure she recognized. Paul, the firm's ruthless senior partner, her mother's closest confidant. "Get out!" he bellowed, rushing past the scattered debris and chaos, his expression wild. But then he froze, eyes landing on the woman in black. "You shouldn't have done this. You have no idea what'll happen now." "Shut it, Paul," the woman hissed. "Your time is up. Everyone's time is up." The gravity of her words hit like a tidal wave, swallowing the room in a shroud of fear. Maria's head spun. Everything they had built, every shred of normalcy had disintegrated. "Wait!" Robert's voice cut through the tension, panic rising. He stepped forward, facing Paul. "What's going on? What did you all do?" Paul's frantic gaze darted towards Robert, momentarily shaken. "You really don't want to know, boy. Some truths are better left buried." "Then maybe it's time to dig them up," the woman whispered, her voice seductive in the charged atmosphere. "And I can show you, if you're brave enough." And just like that, the room vibrated with a different kind of energy. Shadows flickered and a sound erupted, a crack like thunder. "Enough!" Maria shouted, but it was too late. In an instant, the ground split open beneath them, and the world as they knew it vanished into the abyss. The last thing Maria saw was the shocked expression on Robert's face, the fading glimmers of light, and then darkness. Could she find her way back? Would they survive this chaos? Everything she thought was true unraveled in that moment, and now she had to piece together the fragments before they were lost forever. As the darkness faded, Maria found herself standing on the edge of a new reality. The chaos that had enveloped them ebbed away, replaced by a sharp stillness that made her heart race. In front of her, the charred remnants of the previous moments lingered. Jenna's glow faded, the tension around them dissipating as the noise and shouting outside melted into a haunting echo. "You okay?" Robert's voice broke through her fog, his eyes searching hers filled with concern and a touch of fear. She nodded, but it felt robotic, like a reflex not entirely grounded in truth. She had lost so much, and the weight of it all pressed down like a stone. The woman in black stepped closer. "You've got to take control now, Maria. The threads of your life are tangled, but you can weave them into something new." Her words, though encouraging, felt laced with pressure. Could they really step out of this mess unscathed? Maria gritted her teeth, determination igniting in her chest. "I want to know the truth. About my mother. About all this," she replied, her voice steadying. "Then let's grab the pieces while we still can," the woman said, a fierce light flickering in her eyes. "Time doesn't wait for anyone, especially not in this game." They turned to see Paul still standing, shock locking his features in place. "You think you can unravel it? This is much bigger than you both." His voice trembled, half anger, half fear. "You have no idea what's coming." But Maria felt the turmoil within her solidify into resolve. "If I don't try, I'll never know what's possible. You can't control me anymore." The sirens wailed louder, a reminder that they were still wrapped in chaos. But here, in this fragmented moment, Maria understood that she was no longer just a pawn. She was the player. "Let's go," Robert said, clutching Maria's hand and leading her toward the door, urgency sharpening his every movement. They stepped into the fray, a chaotic world, full of questions and uncertainty. Yet somehow it all felt alive. As they burst out of the building, the city buzzed with an unsaid tension. People froze mid-motion, eyes wide with shock, and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Maria took a deep breath, grounding herself, feeling the concrete under her feet. Above them, the skyline stretched, each tower a testament to dreams built on the backs of others. But amidst the noise, her heart picked up an unfamiliar rhythm, a steadiness that promised hope. Together, they walked forward, choosing to confront the past. "Hold on," the woman said, unexpectedly appearing beside them. "You'll need allies. You have people who can help you unravel this." She glanced back at Paul, now a figure fading into the distance, fear clawing at his retreating form. But be ready, the past doesn't let go easily. With that, she turned, gliding back into the chaos, leaving Maria and Robert standing at the precipice of a new beginning. "Where do we start?" Maria asked, her voice steadier than she felt. Robert looked down at her, a spark of strength igniting in his gaze. "We find the truth, together." They exchanged a determined nod. With hearts beating as one, they stepped toward the horizon. ready to confront whatever lay ahead, a world full of secrets waiting for unraveling. But as they walked away, a single question lingered in the air. Could they truly redefine who they were? The sun dipped below the skyline, casting shadows longer than before. But light glimmered on the edge, a flicker of what could be. And with that promise of possibility, the journey had only just begun. But not before you take action, my friends. Listen up. You need to subscribe immediately so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support for this channel. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this finale. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.